Meet 2025 BET Award winner Kialo EDU, the 100% free tool for thoughtful, inclusive classroom discussion. On Kialo, students contribute instantly and simultaneously to create an interactive map of a discussion, deepening their subject knowledge and enhancing their critical thinking skills. Set tasks, track participation, and provide personalized feedback in just a few clicks. And since it's compatible with all your favorite LMS platforms, it slots seamlessly into your existing workflow. Over 1 million educators and students are already using Kialo to make the world a more thoughtful place. Join them today at kialo-edu.com.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Thanks for watching live or listening back to this show from Teachers Talk Radio. You can catch up with all our shows by visiting our YouTube channel or by listening back at ttradio.org. Don't forget to like and subscribe to enjoy more live education conversation from TTR. We hope you enjoy this show. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Teachers Talk Radio once again for another show, another night, another show. We've got shows every single day this week at 7:30 or 8. It's a very busy week. Here's another one, which is absolutely fantastic, all about immersive learning again. Our series of shows with Merlin Entertainment. It's absolutely amazing to be able to talk about so many fascinating and enriching things that students can experience. And today is no different, because we are going to talk specifically about aquariums and sea life. And I thought I would talk directly about my day at work first. My day at work, in case you're interesting, you're all interesting. In case you're interested, has been okay. I got through it. Lots of Key Stage 3 groups. And we were doing monks. We were doing medieval monks. It was very somber. They labeled a picture of a monk, and we then discussed medieval life for religious people. So that was year 7. What to do with year 8? Year 8, oh, we're still doing Cromwell. And in fact, next week, we have a historian coming to talk to the students about Oliver Cromwell and the age-old debate about Oliver Cromwell. So that'll be interesting, which leads me on to immersive and enriching experiences for students, because I've done 2 of those so far with them, where historians have spoken to them. With year 9, had Paul Reed talking about World War I. They had the year 7s, had Mark Morris talking about medieval life. And they were able to engage with a historian, ask them questions, do a Q&A essentially. We've got one next week with Peter Gorn, which is on Cromwell. Now, okay, that's probably at the, if you like, the lower end of what you could do to enrich students' experiences, is bring somebody into the classroom on a Zoom. Of course, the biggest way you could enrich learning is take them out of the classroom somewhere. And we're going to talk today about, well, varying experiences of doing that, but specifically with regards to aquariums. But the ones I've done over the years have been, for example, taking the students to Auschwitz twice. World War I battlefield tours, I've done that a couple of times. And also I've done multiple educational visits in the UK as well. Theatre productions, museums. I think one of the things that I feel all those things had in common is the students develop a sense of empathy on some level with something, whatever that topic was. I mean, obviously Auschwitz, it's obvious. You develop an empathy for the victims of genocide, right? But on a smaller scale, the empathy could be with women working during World War I, which is one of the visits we did to the Imperial War Museum in Manchester. So I think whatever the trip you do, whatever the educational visit you do, I think there's opportunities there for the students to connect, to develop some empathy, to develop some skills that they wouldn't otherwise get. I do think that a lot of planning goes in. You obviously have to consider, is this going to be worth it for the students? Is this going to actually enrich their educational lives in a way that adds value? I think what we're going to talk about today 100% does. And you're going to see that as our conversation today goes on. Really excited about it. So that's my little intro. I'm going to bring in the guests. We've got Emily Weston. Emily, good evening to you.
Hello, how are you doing?
Not too bad, thank you. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah.
Should I do an intro of you, or do you want to do an intro of yourself?
I'll let you do it.
All right, well, I'll do my best. You're a specialist Key Stage 3 teacher.
Yes, I am now, yeah.
I find it interesting that you have parted ways with primary.
Mm-hmm. So I did years in year 6, I think maybe 7 years, 8 years. And I did go to secondary once before as a transition teacher, but it wasn't a right fit with me with the school, and they did 90-minute lessons, which for me was already not for me. And then I went back to primary, and this job came up at a secondary school. I actually used to work at their feeder primary, so I knew a lot about them already. And I genuinely am loving it. Like, if anyone's thinking of making the jump, I know this isn't what this is about, but the jump from primary to secondary, I personally have absolutely loved it. So,
do you know what? I know someone else did that. I won't name them, but they've got a following on what was formerly known as Twitter. They actually jumped from primary to secondary, and they're having a great experience. They're loving it. They're really enjoying it. So I think it works for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think
what's your downside? Have you got a downside?
I think for me personally, it's maybe not having all of my PPA all in one go. I think that's what I've had to really get used to. Maybe just learning how to be more productive within just the 50 minutes rather than having a whole afternoon just to crack on. I think that for me is what I've had to get used to, but it's not a downside as such. It's just a readjustment.
Fair play. I mean, the primary downsides for me would probably be associated with snotty noses and sort of, can you wipe this off this sort of questions, and just generally get away from me. You also have a lot of patience. You have to have a lot of patience. I mean, you have to have a lot of patience as a teacher, full stop. But I think next level patience. I think the good part is, and again, this is like a perception from outside, because my limited primary experience is going work experience when I did my PGCE and stuff like that, right? But the kids, I guess, at that age do tend to be more joyful about. They haven't hit teenage sort of years yet, have they? So maybe they're a bit more joyful.
Most of them haven't. Yeah, most of them haven't. I think I like.
Hey, if you're watching this and you're a primary teacher, just feel free to write some horrible comments at me. Tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. Tell me that the kids are not as joyful in primary as they are in secondary. Go on, do it. Make my day.
There were some that were trickier, more teenage, shall we say. But I think you really built relationships with them because you had them all day, every day. And I think, that was a blessing and a curse, because if you or a child had had enough of each other one day, you had a whole 4 days left of the week. Whereas, in secondary, it's more of a change of face. But I love them both equally. I think I'm just as happy in primary and secondary, which surprises me. I didn't think I'd feel that way, but here we are.
Well, it's not just you, Emily. We also have tonight Susie. Good evening, Susie.
Okay, so I'm Susie Simpson. I'm the Global Education Manager for Sea Life. My previous background, teaching-wise, is slightly different to both of yours. So I come from an FE-HE background where I spent 13 years in a kind of vocational animal management teaching environment. So that meant that we did a kind of half-half theory and practical courses. So we have an animal unit, and then we would teach the theoretical in the classroom, and then we go out and spend half the time working on the animal unit, carrying out husbandry and things like that. So mainly 14 years upwards, and it's up through into degree level. So I was program lead for the zoo husbandry and management program there as well. So yeah.
That's me. It sounds like quite a big job. Whenever you put the word global into a job, I feel like it becomes like
it's chop that off, right?
Yeah, I always think like it's a big job.
It is a big job. I would definitely agree with that. We have over 50 sites globally, sea life sites. So yeah, I would say there's a lot of us. So, but it's an amazing community to be a part of, and you know, our reach is huge with regards to our educational reach. Our conservation education is obviously we're reaching lots and lots of visitors coming through our doors, and we're able to reach so many. So yeah, there are huge positives linked to that.
I mean, I was just thinking today, because we're going to be discussing oceans quite a lot, aren't we, this evening? And I was thinking today about the terrible disaster in the ocean in the last couple of days, and it sort of sparked, I guess it sparked a thought in me of, oh, all the terrible damage and all the different things. But if you don't know about what is in the ocean, then maybe it can be hard to conceptualize that. In some ways, that, I'll be honest with you, in some ways, that's like blissful ignorance, because you can look at a disaster like that and you can not really know the damage that is, apart from knowing that it will be substantial damage. You don't know necessarily the ins and outs of the creatures and how the effect on different ecosystems and all the rest of it. So it has brought it into sharp focus. I'm sort of, I mean, saying I'm glad to be doing a show about ocean conservation in light of that, it's probably the wrong terminology, but certainly I think it's brought it into sharp focus. And the other thing, funnily enough, I now live near the sea. I live in Galicia, and where I actually live is next to the sea. It is on, the sea is literally a 2-minute walk that way. And today, today it is great. And today they saved a dolphin, because a dolphin got washed up. It got attacked by a shark, and it got washed up on the beach. And a fire crew happened to be driving past at the time. They went over there and they managed to get a hoist, and they put the dolphin in a hoist, and then they got a lifeboat to come in, and they managed to get the dolphin into the lifeboat and get the lifeboat out to sea and release the dolphin back into the wild. That happened today. Wow.
That's amazing.
What are the chances?
I know, and now I'm talking about ocean conservation. So I wanted to ask you both, oceans, what are your memories of oceans? Because my memories of oceans are all very good things, like beach holidays, in all UK beach holidays, I hasten to add, after getting out of a caravan. So not like Seychelles, we're talking like Margate and sort of, probably like Calais. It's probably the furthest beach holiday we went to. But it does bring good memories back. South Wales, like Pembrokeshire, Haverfordwest. But I wonder for you guys, when you hear the word ocean, what are the things that come to mind for you?
I think for me, my grandpa lived in Barry Island, so I was growing up with the ocean right in front of me. And when we've got family friends who live in Cornwall who I try and visit, and going to like Godreevy Beach and just sitting and being calm. I think that ocean always makes me think of either like that childhood nostalgia of, am I going to go in the ocean or go and win on the 2p machines, or just that calmness of just being sat on a beach and reading and having nothing, like no demands, isn't it? I think the ocean kind of makes you, there's no demand on you. You're kind of just calm and able to just be. So they're quite different memories, but.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with both of you on some of the 2p machines. Definitely there for that. I think driving down to, we used to be in a caravan over the summer period, so we used to go down for the summer, pitch up in the caravan. We'd normally be, we're an island, so you'd often drive an hour and you pitch up the caravan and we'd be near to the beach, and that was the highlight. And day trips down to Camber or Dymchurch or Hastings, and driving down in the car. And I remember when my dad would sort of say, she's lost Emily.
She's gone to the beach.
She's gone to, I'm going to the beach. My dad would say when he saw the sea, and I just remember how excited I was. As soon as he saw the sea, I'd be like, the sea. So then we'd start singing. I'm showing my age now. It's like, I do like to be beside the seaside, but we'd sing it really loud, and then we get down there, and of course, paddling, rock pooling. But I lived in Cornwall as well. I lived there for several years doing my degree, and just being out on the headland, seeing seals, harbour porpoises, just all really good well-being kind of stuff, you know, really positive and really lovely. But I think this is something that people talk about is it's been researched recently that's talked about marine identity and how, you know, we all have sort of links to the ocean somehow, and they may be positive or negative, but we all, like, if we think about how we connect ourselves with the ocean and what our memories are, like, you know, I think everybody should think about that. Like, what's your marine identity? How do you connect yourself with oceans? I think it's pretty cool.
I love it. And scientists say 80% of the planet's life, I'm not sure whether they say originates, but is generated in the ocean. 50% of the Earth's oxygen comes from the ocean. So I wanted to ask, and I'll ask Emily this, and I will input. How aware do you think children are of the role of the ocean in their day-to-day life?
I don't think they're super aware of how it actually affects their life or the facts that you've just said. I think whenever the oceans come up when I'm at school, it is to talk about either a holiday they've been on or they're all obsessed about plastic in the ocean, but exclusively plastic in the ocean and the straws with, you know, affecting the turtles. I don't think they know about all the life that's in there. I don't think they know about, I mean, I didn't know for a while about that oxygen coming from the ocean. So if I don't know it, you know, how can we expect the children to know it? I think it is quite one-dimensional, maybe, what they know. So it's definitely about getting it more in there, isn't it?
I mean, it's part of that because teachers maybe don't have time to delve into it as much, or they don't prioritize it as much as maybe they could, or even
I think it's curriculum, isn't it? When you look at the geography, oceans do come up. You teach about oceans, and I think children naturally kind of guide it towards plastic and oceans. I think whenever I've taught about oceans before, that's naturally where they've wanted to go. And you know, you can mention other things to them. I've showed them like the coral reef in Australia and how that's dying, and you can bring up other things, but ultimately they just want to save the turtles from having straws up their nose. That's kind of what their understanding of it is, because that's what's so widely, I think, communicated at the moment. There was a lot about that. That's what they know, and therefore that's kind of what they center in on.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, there's nothing wrong with centering in on what the students are most interested in. However, you do need to be a bit careful because there's a big sort of topic out there to be explored, isn't there? There's lots of different facets to it. And even exploring this myself in advance of us chatting, I was sort of taken aback at how little I actually knew and how maybe there's a lot of things that maybe the students don't have access to or don't consider doing or thinking about. Maybe, Susie, I don't know whether you have thoughts on that, because I was going to ask, well, it's not really a controversial question, but should ocean conservation be compulsory on the curriculum?
I mean, this is something that's been discussed a lot about curriculum and embedding that. And actually, Wales and Scotland have made changes to their curriculum. So there are elements in there that talk about climate change and, you know, sort of links in a lot more. We have the ocean principles, the 7 ocean principles, that's looking at ocean literacy and the different aspects to it, which we're hoping we're embedding a lot more within a lot of other aspects, informal education with the aquariums and things where we're doing that. But it fills a need. The aquariums is kind of filling a niche, you know, and other organisations delivering these outreach projects, delivering that material and information to kids and doing these kind of things really is something that needs, I think, if you had it woven into the curriculum a bit more. I mean, look at what's going on. You talk about natural disasters, you talk about climate change. I mean, the kids are aware of these things. They're fully aware of it. It's in their face every day. You know, we see it on the news and everything else. I think we're very much going back to teachers and teaching the curriculum. If I'm specialist on certain topics, I will use that in my teaching because I know it and I can link back to it. So I talk about a theory or a concept. I'll use an example of animals, you know, certain species that I know really well. I don't think that's as easy for teachers if they don't already have a really big interest in ocean literacy. I mean, you know, it's the same for parents, isn't it? If you don't talk about it all the time or you're not really interested in it, the chances are that the kids aren't going to hear about it. They're not going to know about it because we don't talk about it. So I think we look at land mammals quite a lot more. We like fluffy stuff, right? Kids like fluffy stuff. So in that sense, I think if raising that awareness, kind of making it more important that actually the ocean still plays a really, trees, oxygen, carbon cycle, ocean, like these are really important components, but we'll often go to this land terrestrial kind of idea. And I think it's very much out of sight, out of mind. We see things outside, we see squirrels, we see a lot of, animals outside and things, but we don't often see sea creatures. We don't often see aquatic species unless we actively go out there. And I think I think bringing it into the curriculum in some form would be really beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, that sort of leads. I was going to ask a question around what schools and community organisations and organisations like Sea Life can do to support students who are not near an ocean or a sea or any form of water. What do we do?
So I think role modelling is definitely up there. So we can all do that in some kind of form. Teachers, obviously, being able to embed these sort of ideas or looking up these kind of things on ocean literacy and how they can bring that in. We can do things like river cleans and beach cleans. We can get the local community involved. We can be talking about it. We can bring each other together. We're all learning in that sense, and we're seeing adults, organising these events. And so the kids are seeing that they're doing that and actively taking part and doing something in the local community. Sea Life, we have materials and resources. We have the conservation classroom, which has lots of free downloadable resources for teachers to use and others to sort of look through and utilize. And so we actually have the Friends of the Sea subscription, so you can actually go in. It's completely free. You can sign yourself up, and then you can download the missions that are available, which include the Protect, the Advocate, and the Mobilise, different resources. And as part of that, you can take that into the classroom and utilise with the children and carry out activities, things like talking about recycling. So broaden that knowledge rather than just a plastic straw up a nose. We can broaden that and talk about more things. We can talk about how we recycle, how we reuse, how we're sustainable in our choices, like our product choices. And so there are lots of things we can do as part of that. There's an ocean party in there as well, I think. So, yeah.
Emily, anything for you in terms of day-to-day things that we can do to inspire children to get a bit more involved in ocean conservation or a bit more interested in it in general?
I think it's like, I was thinking about this as you were talking, Susie. I think so often what we see about the oceans is almost like the tragedy of it. If I think about the big ocean stories or things that I've seen lately, it's been like they went down to see the Titanic or the oil spill or, animals being hurt. And actually, it's not just the tragedy. They should see it's the beauty of it. So even just showing them, videos of the coral or the different animals that are down there, or that anglerfish video. I saw that on TikTok recently. That I couldn't believe how tiny it was, but that made me even more interested about what's down in the oceans. And I think just showing them a bit more about what is amazing down there will immediately sort of pique their interest. I think they're naturally drawn to that, aren't they? So showing them the good, not just the bad.
I agree with that. I mean, Susie, anything on that in terms of day-to-day stuff? I mean, apart from what Emily's obviously said, what difference, Emily, do you think that visiting an aquarium could make?
I think it shows all the things.
You went to one, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, go on, tell me about that.
So I went to the Sea Life Centre in the Sea Life Aquarium in London, and I honestly have walked past it so many times and never got in because it just looked so small from the front, but there was so much in there. I couldn't believe the amount. I was in there for hours, genuinely hours. And I took a colleague and her daughter. She was 8, and she genuinely looked in. I thought we were going to be running around after her, and she looked in every single little aquarium that's in there. She asked me to read all the facts out, and I think that for me showed me what an impact an aquarium could have, because she's quite, quite active, shall we say, generally, but she took her time as she went round, and there was so much to learn. And what actually really shocked me was there was a rainforest section in there as well. So it wasn't just about like the actual ocean, it was about how the rainforest meets the ocean and the water. I can't explain it, I'm not going to butcher the explanation, but it honestly, though, it genuinely was hours of my day, and I loved it. I could have stayed there longer. Yeah. So if it did that to me, I can't imagine how much the kids would love it.
Is there an outdoor area in there? Is it all enclosed? Is there an outdoor area?
It's all indoors, unless I missed a section, but I think it's all indoors. But it's got different levels and like different areas. There was a part where you could put your hands in. It was like a rock pool. You could feel things, a tunnel to walk through. There was also an interactive game, and I'm not ashamed to say I beat all the children playing it. You had to like make your own version of a jellyfish, I think it was. I beat them by quite a lot. I was quite proud of myself.
Happy days. Yeah, I mean, aquariums, I think, are fantastic. They're not necessarily the first thing you're going to think of as a teacher when you think of an educational visit, because I don't think they are. I don't know why, because they're a great resource. And that's partly why we're having this conversation today, I guess. But also just in general, maybe that's part of what we were saying about the ocean and learning about the ocean, how they learn about the ocean, why they learn about it, how it's structured, because that would then lead on to maybe an educational visit to an aquarium or something similar. But maybe things aren't structured in that way. Susie, we'll see if we've got your sound back. Are you there?
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I'm back.
I just wanted to ask you why do you think it would be a good idea for a teacher to consider a visit to an aquarium like Sea Life, but let's just say an aquarium? Why do you think that's a good idea?
I mean, there's lots of reasons. It's an environment that's really engaging. It's it's an excitement thing. You get excited to go along to the aquarium. It's a place where actually you're going to see animals that you probably either children won't ever see, which some kids may not ever see these animals in the wild, but also it's just super motivating for them. I see them when they come in, they race over to the areas, and it basically could be just, it's just a really exciting environment for them to be in. It's reinforcing that learning that you're doing in the classroom. So when you're talking about these things, you go into the aquarium, the teachers are able to go, well, this is the animal we were talking about. And why don't you see, what are their conservation threats? How do they move? What do they look like in the water? How, all of these kind of things that you can kind of talk about and reinforce all of that information you've been saying in the classroom. And this is like strengthening the neural pathways, right? It's like going back over information and then building on those foundations. So I find that it's just such an exciting environment. The kids get so excited about seeing all the animals because it's just there is a wow, and that's a part of what we do, is amazing discovery and wow moments. So yeah, I think we hit that when we're bringing that closer, bringing that real life to the children. And that's building that empathy too, right? You were talking about earlier.
Yeah, because I guess seeing a creature, I was going to say in the flesh, is that like a human statement? I don't even know. But seeing a real creature instead of just a photograph or a video, it does make a difference, doesn't it? I mean, in terms of just understanding and seeing it. More so than maybe in another domain. I feel like it's because it's a living creature. It's different, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that there's some amazing filmmakers out there creating some incredible footage, and delivering that through our TV screens, through streaming or whatever it might be. We've got some incredible stuff going on there, and David Attenborough, iconic.
Do you know what? I'd written a bingo card there, and we've just crossed it off. David Attenborough. You mentioned him.
Do you really? Did you?
Yeah.
But if you think about some of these programs and you just think these people are making, they're drawing attention to these things. So there's a lot to be said for those kind of mediums. But really being in an aquarium and feeling that environment, I mean, there's a sense of it really is, for a lot of people, it's a well-being thing. You know, you're in there, the sights, the sounds, the low lighting, you're actually feeling like you're underwater with those animals. And that is a really magical feeling for children who haven't ever, you know, they may not ever scuba dive, or, you know, in the economy now, we really don't have much money for trips abroad or things like that. And so bringing that experience to immerse yourself, be under the water and be there with them, is just, yeah, something you can't really get unless you're out there in the wild doing research and all that kind of wonderful stuff.
I say when we went as well, what was really surprising is there was obviously the tunnel, and there's like the big tanks that have got the sharks and things in, which you would typically think is where we would have spent the most time. But actually, the little girl and I, we actually spent the most time outside the jellyfish and the seahorse tanks. We could have been there for so long just watching them. It was mesmerizing. And jellyfish, with the lighting they put in there, they genuinely look beautiful, which you would never think about a jellyfish, I don't think, without seeing them there. So it was surprising, actually, the areas that we did spend the most time in.
Yeah, I agree. The jellyfish area is just beautiful, and it's such a calming environment. And I think when we think about inclusivity, accessibility, you know, for children, you know, especially with SEND needs, you know, like going into that kind of environment is really quite calming. So yeah, there's lots of wonderful elements there that you can take away. But for me too, I'm quite happy being there, just being in all of that. They're just beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, when I've been to aquariums in the past, I have to agree with you. It has been like a calming experience, which for someone like me is quite miraculous, because it takes a heck of a lot to calm me down. So yeah, I've always really enjoyed those visits. I'm yet to actually take an educational visit to an aquarium. So I wanted to ask you, Susie, what, you know, I'm interested in this in terms of what the principles are, what the ethos is at, say, Sea Life, a Sea Life aquarium. When you take students there, you know, what can teachers and students expect from that visit? What principles are going to be on display? How is it maybe going to be different? Maybe not different, but how's it going to be unique in terms of the ethos and the principles that are in place when they visit?
I mean, we go by our ocean literacy. You know, we want to share that information, those facts about those animals. We carry out a lot of conservation and research projects. So we have a lot that, you know, we're disseminating that information for children to see what kind of things we're doing and what kind of conservation is going on, inspiring kind of career choices too. You know, if you think about that, you know, we're looking at conservation action. So we're looking to sort of deliver that call to action messages. So we want the children to be coming through and learning what they can do to actively advocate for species as well. So there are lots of different, for us, what we're trying to do is look at well-being and nature connectiveness. So all of these kind of elements is what we're incorporating into our education programs, but also into that kind of self-guided tour. If a school wanted to go on one of our self-guideds, they'd sort of like going through the experience. They have materials and resources to help them through that, and, you know, questions. They've got lots of materials to help them with those processes, a pre-session, and yeah, staff on hand to help out with that kind of experience. So from start to finish, we're, you know, delivering on those kind of elements that Sea Life are looking to do educationally.
And I also noticed, swatting up, because I would really consider doing this myself, is the different areas of curriculum that you can get involved with. So whether it be English with creative writing, obviously you've got the sciences, that's pretty much a given, but geography, English, art and design, you know, things that you might not have thought of that students can do and engage there. I don't know whether, Emily, you've got any thoughts on that in terms of the cross-curricular dimensions to the visit you did, and whether there's anything in there where you thought, well, that could apply to that quite well.
Yeah, I think I'm one of these annoying people that doesn't switch off from teaching when I'm out and about. So I did, as I walked around, I was thinking, how could I connect this? But I genuinely think you can connect pretty much anything to the aquarium, which really surprised me. I think art is always, I think you can connect art really easily to most things, but even history, like the history of the oceans, history of animals, you could look at everything. You were saying no, yeah, you can.
No, you could. Oh, you could.
Right. You can do like PSHE about, being a good citizen. You can do, I mean, as an English teacher, the English writing. You could even do maths about like volume of a tank or like, distance across oceans. It genuinely encompasses everything, which I know you said earlier when you think, well, why don't we go to aquariums more in school? If I think to when I plan trips, I think, well, what can I get out of it? And for an aquarium, I always just saw it as, sorry, Susie, like a bit of fun, like a fun trip, or it has to connect just to oceans. But actually, when I went round, I thought it encompasses everything. And I thought, what if you did that at the start of a term, that would lead your learning for the rest of it, really, which I think genuinely really surprised me. I was surprised by how much was in there and how much learning was in there. So I feel a fool for having done it before.
Yeah. Susie, I'll ask you this, but also Emily as well. What would be, I mean, if a teacher is maybe watching this, or somebody in education is watching this, and they're thinking of planning a trip or an educational visit to an aquarium, what would your like top tips be for them to consider if they're thinking of doing that?
I think doing some pre-prep beforehand. I mean, we've got the teacher days. This allows you to be able to contact the hub, do bookings. You can go through for the teacher day. That allows you to do a risk assessment, so you're able to check out the facility and see what's available. If you want to book workshops or any elements like that, then you can just go online and do that through the booking hub. You can also talk to the site directly if there's any particular questions, then they can redirect you through. So and then after that, you get all of your documents come through, so everything you're pre-prep so that you can do something before you go on the visit. And then depending on whether it's a self-guided, where you'll have materials as well to go through that, or you will be given obviously you'll be met by a member of staff to do your workshop, which can take up to an hour. And then again, you can wander around and go and have a look at what else is available. So we have some VR experiences in some of them as well, with some great videos on some of the researchers who are out under the water sort of delivering, doing the research stuff. So lots of different things, and it's quite a simple process really to book a trip and gain all that information.
Brilliant. I mean, in terms of educational visit planning, Emily, having been there, is there anything that you think that you would do when planning a trip to a sea life aquarium or an aquarium in general? Is there anything, I mean, from my perspective, the first thing I'd be thinking about obviously is how that builds into the curriculum I've already got, and where it would fit in with that, where that educational visit would sit within what I'm teaching, the cross-curricular links, getting other teachers involved from different departments. Obviously, I'm talking here from a secondary perspective. In primary, it would just be colleagues in general, and thinking about how to bring in as much of that as possible. But I guess I'd also be thinking about the student experience and thinking about the children who are going on the visit and their existing interests and their existing talents, and how to maybe create opportunities for them to make links and connections with their talent or interest during the visit. And thinking about, okay, John is really, really interested in X. How can we present an opportunity within this educational visit for John that is specific for John? So it's, I mean, I'm just talking about a trip in general. So my example is World War One, where we had a student who obviously had a relative in Flanders. We visited the grave of their relative, the specific place where they were buried, and we visited that place, and that created a individual moment for a specific student. Obviously, in a trip like this, it could be a specific interest in a particular creature, or it could be a particular interest in a particular thing. How even art, if a student is specifically interested in art, how can we bring that in for them in the visit? That was me going off on a tangent about things I would be thinking about when I plan an educational visit in general, but specifically in this case, how we can make it. I say individualized. You can't because you've got a class group with you, but at least thinking about what the students are interested in.
Well, I think before I went on the trip, I always tend to do it anyway, like show a map of where I'm going. So I think when you show them sort of the aquarium and they can see the different areas, I would naturally be noting like what animals each of the children is most excited to see. And then I think even when you're there, you can be like, oh, I don't think of any children's name, like Molly, this is where the jellyfish are, or Sam, this is where the penguins are. And I think I would just sort of note what they're most excited about and almost guide them to that. I would even think about in primary, can you pair some classes up? So naturally, I think we always take like just year 6 on their own. Could it be that you take year 6 with the reception class and actually they get to see the wonder and the joy of the reception class and almost be the experts themselves? I think that would be really lovely. And I don't think it's done enough, actually. I think we either do a whole school trip or just a class trip. Why not just join up 2 of those areas? EYFS are very good at doing oceans and, children-led learning. So why don't we take them with year 6 and get them to, and then they get to be the role of the expert. Can they read the signs to the younger children? Can they tell them what's in there? I think that's the angle I'd be going on, because it would create that awe and that wonder. And actually the cultural capital that they'd be getting from maybe seeing things they haven't seen before. So
meet 2025 BET Award winner Kialo EDU, the 100% free tool for thoughtful, inclusive classroom discussion. On Kialo, students contribute instantly and simultaneously to create an interactive map of a discussion, deepening their subject knowledge and enhancing their critical thinking skills. Set tasks, track participation, and provide personalized feedback in just a few clicks. And since it's compatible with all your favorite LMS platforms, it slots seamlessly into your existing workflow. Over 1 million educators and students are already using Kialo to make the world a more thoughtful place. Join them today at kialo-edu.com.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
And I noticed, Susie, correct me if I'm wrong, but on the website, in terms of the facilities, resources, different things that are available, there are things that are like suitable for year 6, but also suitable for early years. There's quite a range in the offering, rather than just, hey, it's primary or it's like secondary. It's very specific, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And we've got a wide range of variety, a variety of resources for schools to use. So I think it's about offering options, because we recognise that teachers know what they're doing and want to be able to slot things in as to what they're doing. So if the availability is there and the options are there, they can make those decisions themselves: what will work, what won't work, what the children differentiate in as to what the children will want to do, or what's more exciting, and give options there. So yeah, lots of variety and options for teachers.
I wanted to move on a little bit and talk about careers, because I think there's an element there in terms of jobs in the world of work. Working in the area of marine conservation or oceans. Do you think students are generally aware of the different jobs that are out there? I'll be honest with you, I'm not. I don't have a clue what jobs, other than working at an aquarium or working at, perhaps, I'll tell you, this is stupid, but working in on like oil rigs, which is it's terrible. I'm being a marine biologist, so just like studying it. But in terms of careers, very limited knowledge. So
Yeah.
Susie, tell us, list now, it's challenge time. List me as many jobs in a minute as you can. Oceans. Get ready, Emily.
Not explain them. Not explain each one.
She's going to turn a mic off. Go on. As many jobs as you can in a minute. Oceans.
Marine biologist. You've said about the oil rigs. Environmental planner, conservation education host, engagement within an aquarium, photographer, filmmaker, oceanographer, lifeguard, fisherman, yeah.
Really
I don't think I did too bad.
What about, I got another one, which is like a diver.
Diver, yeah, absolutely. You usually need the diving qualifications as well as part of quite a few of those jobs. So if you're doing the oceanographer going collecting or marine biologist or any of the filmmaking and things like that, you'd need to have some kind of, unless you're above with a camera dipping in the water. But yeah, but I don't think this is I don't think this is something that a lot of children or people are aware of, what the different jobs are around oceans. I don't think it's something that's often talked about. Again, it's one of those things that we're not as familiar with. It's quite specialist as to like I say, ocean conservation and those kind of jobs. It's just not part of your mainstream. We talk about vets and doctors and nurses and working in a library or whatever it might be. Like, there's lots of different careers, but I don't think working within the ocean environment is something that we often talk about. It's just not the mainstream. So it is something that we do need to talk about a bit more, especially secondary, because you're going into careers. We've got the Gatsby benchmarks, we're talking about that a bit more with the kids. They're looking at the direction they're going, they're making choices for options and things. So understanding that maybe you need to have the sciences, you need to get your English and maths, or you need to focus on these topics in order to move up into those kind of jobs. I think that's something I saw with university students. We took them on a trip to London, and 3 of my students were very much interested in aquatic species. And by the time we'd finished doing a behind the scenes, we've got a kitty cat, behind the scenes, learning about nutrition, quarantine, filtration, all of these things on a large scale. We got to the end of the trip and they were like, we just didn't really know we could do this kind of job. And I said, well, you're zoology students and you didn't realize you could. So it goes to show you that even in that sort of animal management or zoo, they didn't even realize they could do those kind of things and what it entailed. So it goes to show you, really.
No. Absolutely. What skills do you think children need to develop to do these sorts of jobs? Are there any common skills or things that you think they need to be able to do?
I think really it's again, having that core knowledge is like your sciences, your chemistry, biological sciences. We know that anatomy, physiology, the way biological organisms work, ecosystems, how they function, the different components to it. So I think there's lots of that kind of theoretical. When we talk about practical skills, once they start getting older, you can gain dive qualifications, you can go snorkeling, you can do swimming lessons or continue to swim and hone your skills if you're wanting to be in the water and doing certain things. And I think English is really important and maths for your data analysis and research and your writing skills in that sense, if you're looking to move up in academia and go through into these kind of things. But volunteering is a big thing in the industry, going and gaining some work experience, learning on the job, practical skills. Some learners, we all learn differently, right? We have got your learning styles. So I'm very practical learner, so actually doing practical stuff I pick up really quickly. And that's the same for some of our children. Will be much better on the job. They may not necessarily feel very academic, and they actually are much better in a practical setting and learn on the job skills and then move into that position as a result. And that's where we see some of our aquarists coming through. You're on mute, Tom.
That makes perfect sense. So what I wanted to ask next was about the teaching resources. I'll ask Emily a little bit about this as well, but when it comes to the resources that are available, and I'm just going to pull up this image actually again of the Sea Life homepage. So there's quite a lot of stuff that a teacher can tap into here. The mission, which I've just joined, you get your mission cards, which looks a bit like this, your challenges. You've got protect, advocate, mobilize, expert, which I think, Susie, you said wasn't out yet. But
no, you get the subscription, and then protect, advocate, and mobilize are all available to download, and then expert is going to be released soon.
Brilliant. So step one, you just have to sign up for the challenge pack, which you can do by visiting the address which is on screen now. Visit sealife.com/UK/schools. You can get the pack. Step one is obviously just click that button that says request your free challenge cards and teacher guide, input your email address in there. Then you can select your mission. You can have a look at the challenge cards. Let's just take that banner off so we can see that. And yeah, if you do work with the students, you can share it with Sea Life, right? And yeah, they might share it somewhere, and then the kids get a bit of a shout out, which is pretty cool. But obviously, coming back to the main homepage, just to tick, because the free classroom resources, they're really cool. I was really not this. I do not mean this in an offensive way, but many providers out there, there are some providers out there where the free resource section just tends to not be great. Whereas actually, I was looking at this and it is really, really nice. It looks good. It's simple. It's easy to access. It's easy to adapt. So it's not something I don't know whether you want to feed in on that, Emily, from your perspective.
Yeah, I think very similarly. I think the resources are of a high quality. I think there's a good range there. I think it's really useful as well that the ages are on them, because sometimes I end up trawling through a lot of resources that don't actually suit the age that I have. And they do actually go all the way up to age 13, which I thought was really interesting as well. But yeah, I really loved the range and the quality of them. I agree, Tom. I think sometimes you see the word free and you think, well, I don't know how this is going to go. But actually, they're quality free resources, which you could either use as you went round. Like I could easily make a work pack of that for as you go round, or in the classroom, having been or not been to the aquarium. I think they're just as useful. And I love that it's called the conservation classroom as well. I think it just changes it from just being an activity that they're doing to feeling a bit more empowered with it, I think.
And you know, what makes a classroom a conservation HQ? Maybe Susie can answer that, but Emily as well. What makes a classroom a conservation HQ?
I'll just jump in with the first bit with the resources. I love that it's got the manifestos on there. I think that for me starts making it into a conservation classroom, not just having resources, because it's actually getting to make, if I remind myself, I think it's by getting to do things like be respectful with wildlife and things like that. And they have to sort of say that they're going to do that. And I really love that as a resource as well, because it makes them take more ownership, not just of the learning, but of what they're up to. So
this is primary.
Yeah, I think that's the idea. Yeah, the idea is to give the children more of a ownership over actions. You know, I think we're giving them the tools and the resources to be able to become these ocean advocates, and they can do campaigns, and so there's lots of things in there that talk about doing a campaign and putting materials together, creating a presentation and delivering that to the school, becoming an ambassador, creating badges so that you can actually show to everyone that you're an ocean ambassador, and encouraging kind of, some of them talk about, so our Protect talks about carbon footprint, so that's actually going into the classroom and going, right, conservation headquarters, right, we're going to look at what the school does, what the energy use is, how we get to school, do we go by foot or do we go by bike, or are we using a car, and how can we change that? So there's like a footprint that you can do a before and after there. So there's also the recycling. So let's assess the school's recycling systems. Are we recycling? What are we using? Single-use plastic, all these kind of things. So it's kind of there's the final one is kind of the campaigning and everything. The manifesto is brilliant because the kids can actually sit down and go, okay, I can take this to somebody. I can, go to the head teacher, or I could go to my local MP, but they do need that support from the teacher to kind of encourage that kind of thing and go, you know what, here's the tools and I'll help you deliver that, what you want to do and the message you want to get out there. So yeah, it's a really lovely set that hopefully, works really well within the classroom as a conservation HQ. That's the idea. So, and the expert will be released soon, which if you subscribe, then you will obviously automatically get that as a result when that gets released. And that actually links into conservation projects. So that's stepping up a level and actually looking at our conservation and research projects, all the different things we're doing across the globe, things like the coral work that we're doing, the propagation. We've got rescue and rehabilitation. We have our seals being rehabilitated and released in Scarborough, Hunstanton. So like having videos from the sites actually talking about the project. So lots of things to like broaden out your conservation HQ classroom and really build that story for the children.
Yeah, because there were 4 missions: protect, advocate, mobilize, expert. We mentioned expert is coming soon, right? So it is, as part of each one of those, what do children learn from each of those missions? Presumably it's linked to the word, right?
Yeah, so they're becoming those, they're learning to protect. How can they protect? Well, a lot of this is about giving them actions. How can they actively take part? We bombard children with sort of, the climate change and all these things that are happening, but this is actually giving them tools to actively take part, and this is creating those behaviors for. So if you look at the World Association Zoo strategy, looking at behavior change, so we're talking about how do we change what we're doing, because we affect the ocean impacts us. So what we're saying to kids are, you can positively contribute through these projects. You can actively do these actions, and this will help protect our oceans and protect our planet and contribute to conservation. So that's what we're doing, is kind of giving them that chance to. Kids love to get in charge of things. They love having a project, don't they? They love to get out there and go, there you go, you're in charge, and they're like, great, let's go. So the beach cleans are a perfect example of that. They love getting a high-vis jacket on and getting a grabber and going out and being in charge like a grown-up. So yeah, really great practical ideas in there.
And the challenge cards, they choose and complete a mission, as we've just mentioned. And I mean, do you have a favorite mission?
I would say I like advocate because I really want an ocean party. I haven't had one yet, but yeah, I would love to. I think the ocean party has so many different levels, and I sort of mentioned it to Emily earlier. It's like, anybody loves to do an ocean party. I mean, you don't have to be little, you can be an adult, but the idea being that hold an ocean party in your hall, invite everybody to come along. You can get friends and family involved. You're sharing those messages. You're creating decorations out of sustainable recycled materials. People take food away afterwards, so there's no food waste. Fundraise off the back of it, so you can send that to a charity and you can contribute to ocean conservation. And then it's sharing the message afterwards. Go around and tell people about what you did and why you did it and why it was really important. And then your reach is much further. So I love the ocean party. I think everybody would love an ocean party.
I love the sound of it. It sounds so much fun.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned actually the Beach Clean initiative. So what top tips would you have for schools taking on the organisation, for example, of that? I mean, it's a tricky one, right? Is it? I mean, I guess.
Well, I think if you're organising yourself and you're going out, obviously you have your normal risk assessments, and as a school, you would go through the normal processes for that. As part of what we do beach cleans where, we have high-vis jackets for the kids and the teachers. We have a couple of members of staff who join the children on the beach and then go out with the grabbers and some bags, and then go along the beach, collect all of these things, talk to staff about what you're finding, you know, some may find mermaids' purses, not just you know, sort of eggs, that not just your normal rubbish and bottle tops. But the point is that it's the talking and the community and the socializing, like you're building other skills while you're doing those kind of things. You know, the kids are taking ownership. They're talking to each other, socializing. In the big beach cleans that we do, the global beach cleans with Sea Life Trust, they're you know, you have lots of people, community, where they're talking to each other, and you're discussing all the different bits of rubbish you're finding. Then at the end, you take it all back, and then you go through all the pieces with the staff, and then you weigh it all. And so it's a bit of a competition at the end, because you're kind of like, oh, who did? So there are lots of discussion points around that. But it's also, again, like linking into nature connectedness, being outdoors, exercise, you know, well-being, again, enjoying yourself, having fun, socializing. There's so many different aspects to it. It's really beneficial. So they're really good. You could do a river clean too. If you're not near a beach, you could do a river clean, or really simply pick up rubbish in the playground. You know, like, I know it's like bringing it back. You can do really simple things.
The kids love that. I mean, in Bolton, in my last school, Tanya, who's the head of school there, she took the kids out every, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks. They absolutely loved it. They absolutely loved it in the park there, just next to the school. Got a lot of attention from the locals, in positive attention, you know, because obviously maybe the perceptions of, you know, kids that age is they're not interested in doing that. They don't want to do it, or they just don't want to do anything. But they went out with litter pickers. I joined them once or twice, although they did loads more than I did. And yeah, they picked up a lot of stuff. And you can imagine there was a lot of stuff they picked up in the park. You know, huge amounts of just awful stuff, right, all over the place. So that's a really, really good idea, actually. And they love that stuff. They love the beach clean, litter picking, anything along those lines. They absolutely love it. They just love it.
Who knew, right? Picking up rubbish.
Yeah,
I love it so much.
They love the competitive element of it as well. There's just so much in there. And also, I think they do have a growing awareness of climate issues, the environment. There are many there that see that as a really, really important thing for them to do. So they take it very seriously. You've then got others who might not see it that way, but still want to get involved with the competitive element. You've got others who just like the idea of wearing high-vis jackets, right? So, you know, you got a whole combination, the whole spectrum. Yeah, I mean, we mentioned the ocean party. The expert test is sort of top secret, right? You can't give us any insight into what the expert challenge is going to be. It's going to be to be the next Greta.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, it links into our conservation projects, but I think you have to sign up in order to get that one come through. So yeah, leave that one for everyone to explore.
I was hoping for a sneak peek. We didn't get one.
You'll be getting it. You've subscribed.
Yes, so am I.
Well,
there you go.
True. Yeah, I'm going to get them soon. I'm going to see exactly what it is. So, okay, Emily, I mean, what from everything we've discussed there, what do you think the children could gain from things like the ocean party, things like the beach clean initiative? What can students gain from that?
I think it's everything we've already kind of touched on, but the awareness, I think, if you have something like a party, you're showing it to them in a different way where they don't feel like they're necessarily being preached to or taught. They're getting to access it all in a really fun way that makes it more relevant to them. I think even just saying to them about taking food home, for example, and not having waste, it's maybe something that they don't associate with looking after the oceans, but actually conservation is conservation of everything. Because I'm sure I bang on to them about too good to go bags. They don't care. They don't buy the shopping, but I love a too good to go bag, and I go on about food waste all the time. But actually having an ocean party and then talking about taking the food home and sharing food to take to their families is the way that they're doing it without feeling like they're being told to do it, which I think is really lovely. And like you said, with the beach cleanup, I don't know why children like picking up litter, because if I ask them to pick up a glue stick off my floor, no. But the second you're right, you get those little clippy things involved in a high-vis jacket, they're really into it. So yeah, again, I think the challenge is just to introduce a new way of seeing conservation and being part of conservation without just being told about it, which I think just changes the dynamic of their interaction with it, doesn't it?
Yeah, and also, Emily, in terms of being able to join up with sea life experts, you know, like you did when you visited, you know, there's, you know, the local element to it, global conservation projects, the expertise that's there. I mean, that's a benefit as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, especially as a primary teacher, I know I used to say about myself all the time, I was the jack of all trades, master of none. And I think this is such a good, you know, a good opportunity to use masters within the classroom and have those experts helping. I actually didn't know about the beach cleanup and things like that. And that's something that I would definitely look into. So if you've got experts there with you while you're doing the clean, I can't imagine the wealth of knowledge that they would have to share with the children that I would love to have, but don't have. So I think, yeah, absolutely utilize any experts you can get your hands on, and Sea Life have loads. So
it's epic. So, Susie, I wanted to ask you, it's not just about the kids. We are Teachers Talk Radio. So tell us, someone like me who doesn't have a clue what's going on, right? How can I learn more? How is this? How can teachers get something out of it for their knowledge? I mean, I suppose the obvious answer is they go with the kids and they get it that way. But is there anything specific to the teachers that you think you would share?
I think other than the experience yourself going along and taking the time, because I have seen many school groups come through and we have a nominated person with a small group and everybody's trying to move through, and it's tough for teachers to be able to, you know, take in the environment and learn those kind of things. So I think having an opportunity to go and do that on the teacher day and be able to go round properly and be able to actually read about things and, you know, have a look through, it is a really good way to do it. But we have conservation evenings. Quite a few of our sites do regular conservation evenings throughout. So London's doing some in the next couple of months. Brighton's got some coming up. So we have conservation evenings that are after hours, so after dark, which is quite special in itself because, you know, going to the aquarium after dark is pretty cool. And it's a sort of, you know, it's not nearly as expensive, it's discounted prices, and normally there's a donation to the Sea Life Trust as part of that event. But the point is that you go and there's a couple of speakers. We have conservation organisations that come in, and you have these researchers, and they'll come and talk about their projects and the conservation that's going on. And usually, if it's not sort of a wider organisation, it might be a local organisation that links to that site, and they talk about their projects and what's going on and how people can get involved. And actually, it's a really good opportunity to for people to ask the speaker if they would do a talk for their school. I think it's a really nice opportunity for teachers to come in and have a listen, hear some of the projects they can link into the work they're doing, but also say to them, would you mind doing a talk for our school? What's the harm in asking if they do that? And you might even have somebody talk for your school and talk, you know, to your classes. So lots of opportunities in that sense, I would say, for sure.
Brilliant. Right. Just to finish up then, Susie, I wanted to ask you, if someone's watched this for the last hour and they're thinking, okay, I want to go for this, or I at least want to explore it. I certainly do. Even though I have an ocean, which is literally, in fact, there's an aquarium where I live. It's literally there. Right? I haven't been yet, but it's literally 5-minute walk there. But if somebody's thinking, I want to incorporate this into my curriculum, I want to maybe plan an educational visit, what's the first step? Do they just contact you, or is there something?
So head to the website. I would head to the website first, go and have a look on there, have a look at the different resources that are on there and what's kind of, you know, what you could utilize. And then you can book through the website. So that's, you know, you go through the process, complete the process online, and then you'll be able to carry out that. You'll get further details and further information as a result of that. So it's triggered as a result of you filling that out. There's a lot of information on the site already with regards to admission prices. You can go directly to the different sites. So for example, if you go onto the main website, you'll be able to go to London or Brighton or Birmingham, Manchester. I could go on and select the site that's closest to you. And then, it really is a simple process to get booking in and you know, starting that journey to making a trip. So just an additional, Tom, actually, because you talked about history, Brighton's got one of our oldest buildings. So there are actually historical talks and things. They have a group that go around and actually look at the building and the structure of the building. So again, just builds in, there's lots of different elements to look at.
You've been waiting that whole time, haven't you?
The whole time.
Like, I'm going to drop the building bomb at the end. I'm going to be like, forget the animals. He's a history teacher.
Look it up.
Forget the creatures. Let's drop something about old buildings. You know, way to my heart. That's brilliant. No, fantastic. No, brilliant. I mean, listen, there's so much there to explore and to sort of think about. It's been a real pleasure to talk about it with you this evening. Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Emily. We will be posting this show as a podcast, of course. If you prefer to just listen to it, then you can do so on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the other places that you usually get it from. And yeah, TTR wise, we'll be back tomorrow with more shows. Every single day this week, it's a busy week. We've got loads coming up, talking about the VAT private school policy. We're talking about A-levels. We're talking about coursework. We're talking about the topics are endless between now and Friday. So definitely give us a follow, a like, and a subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. We'll be back soon. And of course, one final shout, visit sealife.com/UK/schools. Get over there if you want to plan your visit to an aquarium. Thanks, everybody. And we will see you very, very soon. Bye.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.